So we have already written a line or two of JavaScript, but what exactly is JavaScript and what can we do with it? Well, that's exactly what we are gonna find out in this video. And so in this lecture, we will set the stage of the rest of the course. And so it's really important that you follow this one until the end. So we can define JavaScript in many different ways, but my definition is that it is a high level object oriented multi paradigm programming language. And with that being said, can we move on to the next lecture now? Well, probably not, because what does any of that actually mean? So let deconstruct this just a little bit to at least make some sense out of this, and starting with programming language itself. A programming language is basically just a tool that allow us to write code that will instruct a computer to do something. And of course, that's our main goal of using JavaScript, right? Then I go on and say that JavaScript is a high level language, which means that we don't have to think about a lot of complex stuff such as managing the computer's memory while it's run on the program. So in JavaScript, there are a lot of so-called abstraction or all these small details that we don't want to worry about, and this makes the language a lot easier to write and to learn. Next, I say that JavaScript is object oriented programming throughout this course. Finally, JavaScript is also the multi paradigm language, means that it is a flexible and versatile, that we can use all kind of the different programming style such as imperative and declarative programming, and these different style are just different way to structuring our code. Basically, again, you will learn all about this throughout this course. This just a first very high level overview, but I hope it's being make sense so far. Anyway, now that we know what JavaScript actually is, at least kind of what is the role that it play in the web development, or in other words, what do we actually use it for? And to answer that question, let's actually look at the three core technology of the web, that is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So these three technology are work together to create beautiful, interactive, and dynamic website on web application. Now the HTML is responsible for the context of the page, so that the text, the image, the buttons, and all the contents that you see on the web page is always written in HTML. Then the CSS is responsible for the presenting of that content. So basically, for style and for laying out the element on a web page. And then finally, JavaScript is the real programming language of the internet, and it allows the developer to add dynamic and interactive effect to any web We also use it to implement the content or the CSS, load data for remote server, and really build the entire application in the browser, which we then call web application. Now we can also use the analogy of nouns, adjective and adverb of to make this separation of role a bit easier to understand. So in this analogy, HTML represent the noun, and for example, say saying that the p element is a paragraph, and so paragraph is the noun here. P tag, the paragraph is noun here. And finally, JavaScript is, of course, the verb. Like says, hide the paragraph. And so here we are doing something, and so we have a verb. Okay, does that make sense? Now, since we have been taking a lot about dynamic effect and web application here, let's now actually take a look at the real example to make it even more clear with JavaScript is capable of. And so this is the web application page like this one. And so I thought that the way was a very cool example. So right off the bat, you background. Then as the data arrive, JavaScript hides these spinners, these these spinners, and insists show us the loaded content. So this is very cool example of manipulating style and the content, right? But there also some simpler dynamic effect on this page, like JavaScript showing the Twitter box wherever we hit the tweet button. And it probably also loads this data on the fly. So a lot of cool stuff going on here, and it's all powered by JavaScript. How cool is that? And in fact, by the end of the course, you will actually know how to use all of the technique that we just saw here. And so I hope that's this make you even more excited about all the content ahead. All right, now that we saw what JavaScript really capable for the web applications, let's quickly recap and also look at the cool stuff that we can build with the power of JavaScript. So as you already know, JavaScript allow us to add dynamic effect to the page, and in fact to build entire web application in the browser. And these applications feel almost like the apps that we use on our computer and phones every single day. So we can say that JavaScript is what made modern web. development, and really the whole modern web itself possible in the first place. Now, if we already whatever familiar with the web development industry, you probably heard the modern JavaScript libraries, L- and these frameworks such as React, Angular, or Vue, right? And if you don't, that's absolutely no problem. You need to know it that easy are basically tools that make write modern large scale web application a lot easier and faster. Now what matter here is that all these framework and libraries are still 100% based on JavaScript. And what this means is that you should becomes really good at JavaScript before learning and using any of these framework, and not just jump into your first framework after you know how to write like 10 line of the JavaScript. Okay, also your library of choice might not always be as popular as it is today, and the best way to prepare is, you guessed it, becoming real good at JavaScript, because then you can easily learn whatever is popular next. So no matter what anyone tell you, learning JavaScript properly is the single best investment that you can make in your web development career right now. Now, the JavaScript language and the web browser are actually two separate things. And what that means is that JavaScript can also run outside the web browser. For example, it is possible to use JavaScript on the web server using the popular technology called Node, and which does not need any browser at all. And this allows us to create so-called backend application, which are simply applications that run on a web server and interact the with the database and stuff like that. On the other hand, when we use JavaScript in the browser, we create so-called front-end application. So in this course, we will learn the ins and outs of the JavaScript language itself, and of course also how to use it in the browser in order to create all these amazing effects that we have been taking about. So basically we are going to be build front end web application, and in the future I might also add a session about Node.js at the end of this course, so that you can get a sense of how we can use JavaScript outside of the web browser environment as well. All right. And now, just to finish, I want to maintain that we can actually also use JavaScript to build kind of native mobile application as well. Native desktop application for any phone and computer operating system out there. That's because of modern tools like React Native, React Native, and the iconic framework and tool like Electron. These have completely changed the whole development industry over the last couple of years, making things possible that we never possible before. So as you can see, there almost thing that you can be build after becoming real good at JavaScript, which if you think about it is really kind of mind blowing. It's just amazing because the possibility are so endless. Okay, and now to finish this lecture, I want to brief talk about JavaScript release or versions, as you might call them. We will come back to this topic by the end of the session because it's super important, but it's also a good idea to get a first overview of JavaScript release at this point. Anyway, to make a long story short, that has been a huge update to the language in 2015, which is basically called ES 2015, but most people just call it ES6 simply because it is was released after ES5. And by this way, ES stand for ECMA script. After now ES 2015, there is now a year new release with a couple of new JavaScript feature. In this course, we are using ES6, but why I am telling you all these? Well, it's simply because in this course I am gonna teach you a modern JavaScript right from the beginning, and I wanted to make these very clear right from the start. However, I am also convinced that you need to understand what comes before EX15, so ES5. And so I will also show you what important of ES5. The reason for that is in a complete video about JavaScript release at the end of this session, because now I no longer want to bore you with theory. So instead, let's now finally get started with the React JavaScript. And thanks for this lecture and this sports. Now we can upload more video on JavaScript regularly.